Supporters of the Freedom Convoy zeroed in on the Detroit-Windsor border last night. The protest happening on the Ontario side where supporters of the Freedom Convoy protested against Canada's COVID-19 mandates and testing rules.
The stories and stuff really got crazy because they were pretty brutal.
Were they? What did you hear though?
Just the way they were treating the people.
They were aggressive?
Like,
Too aggressive?
Yeah, they were like in riot gear and stuff like that. And you know, Windsor's pretty innocent city. Like there's not any reason for that. And what I've seen with my like online and stuff, it was pretty bad. It wasn't justified.
Everyone's tired of COVID. But these protests are not the way to get through it.
We are standing at the battle line. This is our anthem. This is our cry to see revival. The nation's free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
My good friend Doug, and we're going to discuss Canadian topics today. Welcome. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that.
No, you are good at it. I love it.
I don't know. I'm an artist from Windsor, Ontario, and I don't know. I've been following the truckers and stuff like that, and I find it very interesting, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it tonight.
I'm really excited to talk about it tonight because I've been following the truckers all the way from the Dominican Republic. So just so your friends know, I am a Canadian adult model, porn star, and I literally was living in Windsor, close friends with Doug, and I had a store, a sex store, and that's where we met. I worked there. I ran my store, I did my modeling, all that kind of stuff, and we became friends. I also did modeling for his t-shirt line. He has an amazing fashion line as well. So we have a lot of the same political views, which is hard to find sometimes. So sometimes like-minded people have to stick together. And I got my Canadian t-shirt on, and he's got, because he's the fringe minority, he's with the fringe minority. So we got to say that we support the Canadian truckers and the Freedom Convoy, Hong Kong. And we wanted to talk about it because it's been so long that we've talked. So let's have this as our subject. So Doug, you were in Windsor during the Freedom Convoy. What was it like and what were you hearing? What did you see?
Well, I heard a lot of different things about the bridge. Like you couldn't really get the story straight unless you went down there, because there's a lot of different stories about them getting food and stuff like that, and how many trucks were there, things like that. And then when the police came, it really got crazy. The stories and stuff really got crazy because they were pretty brutal.
Were they? What did you hear though?
Just the way they were treating the people.
They were aggressive?
Like
Too aggressive?
Yeah, they were like in riot gear and stuff like that. And you know, Windsor's pretty innocent city. Like there's not any reason for that. And what I've seen with my like online and stuff, it was pretty bad. It wasn't justified.
Right. So here's what happened for me. I did go down to Windsor during that period that they were starting the blockade, but I only had one day really to see my best friend. So I went to go see my friend Andrea the day before I had to see my stepson. So I couldn't go, but I really wanted to know about the convoy. So I was totally tracking it, but so many family things was going on during that period of time that I literally was supporting the truckers, but I was obsessed with watching tons of videos online. So what I saw, and I talked to somebody who also was in Windsor, this girl that used to come to my store, she said she was down there and that her friend got arrested and everything. So during that period of time, I want people to understand, and I'll show a little bit of video, but it was so snowy. It was so cold. It was almost like if I was down there, I would definitely need to be super bundled up like Arctic weather because the snow was going like crazy. There was not as many people as you would think that would be in Windsor, not because of just the snow, but also Windsor was pretty divided. I mean, maybe it wasn't even divided in half, but my friend who has a hair salon, she told me tons of people were very negative about the truckers. So as I'm watching the truckers and I support them, and I'm from Toronto, Canada originally, but I lived in Windsor, a lot of people in Windsor were saying to my friend how negative things about it. And when I was watching on the hotel news, because every single Canadian news is government broadcast news. So it's highly funded. It's not like it gets a little bit of subsidies. It gets huge amount of money from the government, and they all speak the same tune. If they don't, they're not going to probably get their funding. And the reason why I know this is because Trudeau, before I even left Canada, had warned anybody who wanted a summer job government funding, like say, for example, there was a church and they were hiring students. And this is one of the cases. They were hiring students for summer jobs. Now, if they did not go with all his views, his political views, and especially pro-choice, right? And you could be one way or another, whether you believe pro-life or pro-choice. But that was one of the things, was the criteria. So if you did not believe in liberal policies that Trudeau had, you were not going to get government funding for your business to hire students during the summer. That's how Trudeau is. So if you are not going to toe the line on their media, their mainstream TV cable media, you wouldn't have gotten all the money that they have been giving to so-called subsidizing because of the internet to these media. So the mainstream media toes the left liberal line.
I think
We're all saying negative.
That's really like common knowledge. Like a lot of people know that, and it's surprising to me how many people will still watch the news and still pay attention to it, and then believe it.
Yeah.
And in conversations with them, they'll repeat what they heard on the news as if it's facts. Like, oh yeah, I heard it on the news.
Exactly.
And it's like
and it was all lies.
Yeah.
It was, everybody knows the Freedom Convoy, it was lies. So here's what happened. During that period of time, my mother was going through a hard time, and she was in and out of the hospital. Huge family issues were going on. My stepfather died. Tons of stuff happened. My mom has severe dementia. Everything, the shit was hitting the fan basically during this period of time for me. And when I was visiting her in the hospital, all the news, every channel was negative stuff on the Canadian truckers. My mom said that she hadn't even looked at the news really because she has dementia. So if she did, she would have forgot. But my uncle was calling, and he was calling, complaining about the truckers and saying all the stuff that he repeated that he heard on the news. Then I talked to, my best friend and her friend, and they were talking certain things. Some people weren't paying attention to it, and other people were like trying to say negative. The first thing I said was I support the truckers. Now, let's first stop there for a second. So let's say, why do we support the truckers opposed to, okay, that we know that the mainstream media was lying. Okay, we know that, but there's a lot of people who would watch this and who don't know what happened with the Canadian truckers. How do you kind of surmise what happened? What was the Canadian truckers to you? And I'll tell you about what it was to me as well.
I think they were like fighters for freedom. Like, can I just go backwards for a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
When the election came, the NDP, conservatives and liberals all were very open about taking our freedom away. It wasn't a big surprise. They were open about it.
Yeah.
The only people that were saying it about freedom, fighting for our freedom, was the CPP.
Mm-hmm.
And people.
Wait, stop there. Tell people what that is, the PPP.
The Canadian People's Party.
Yeah, the CPP, sorry. And that's basically the party that people don't know about outside of Canada. Because outside of Canada, they only know really like the Democrats and the conservatives. In Canada, we have so many parties. That's why Trudeau had minority government at 30%. So there's so many parties. And the Conservative Party in Canada is pretty left. It's still pretty liberal. The only one that came out that was more like a Canada First, which was like similar to America First, which was the Canadian People's Party of Canada with Maxime Bernier. And the problem is it's brand new, so it's hard for it to get in, and they're being shunned. He got arrested. He got arrested just for even speaking.
The other three groups were all very open about taking our freedom away, and people were voting for them anyway. And I was very open to my friends and stuff about they might lose. The people I'm voting for might lose, but at least I'm voting to keep my freedom.
Yeah.
You know, I might lose, but at least I'm voting for the right thing. When kids and children say, why don't I have my freedom? At least I'll be able to say I voted for you to have your freedom.
Right.
And now everybody's wondering why we don't have freedom. And there's like freedom fighters and there's stuff. We wouldn't be in this mess if people wouldn't have voted it away in the first place.
Yeah. And the real reason why I left Canada when Trudeau got into power is we can see when people don't realize, that people don't really think about, is you can't think of them as liberals. Liberals was basically, I was a classic liberal. My husband and I were classic liberals, libertarian, whatever. The point is that they are not liberals. The Canadian liberals are closer to Marxism and leftism than anything. The thing is that when people hear the Conservative Party, okay, they look like they're trying, but there's a lot of them who are still super on the liberal stuff, who did not stand up for certain things that the Trudeau government was doing. Now, when I left Canada, which is closer to the time that I had my store, the main reason was because of they were starting to change everything. It was a cultural change. So for example, for a small business, and we know the left does not like small business, and we know that, but many people, liberals, don't realize that. They don't like small business owners. They don't like apartment people who manage and rent out apartments. They want it all corporations. Everything, they would love if the government ran everything. Okay, so when that started to change was, okay, all right, some people want $15 an hour for their minimum wage. I get that, but we couldn't afford that. That was going to put many businesses, small businesses, out of business. Okay, so Walmart, they advocate for it all the time, but big corporations, they don't care because they can afford it. So what they do is they want to destroy the small business. That happens no matter what, and it happened to us. Second of all, they had another rule, which is now they can have 10 mental health days, okay? 10 mental health days. So that means you can just say you're not coming to work 10 times in a year without a doctor's note. All right. So they're putting in the mental health thing. Okay, I get that sometimes, but unfortunately, it's really difficult to run a business. So the other thing is what if that happens? Somebody doesn't show up at work. So when I was a model and traveling to the US, somebody would message me and say, your store isn't open right now. And I'd be like, what? And then I'd find out that they get their schedules mixed up and they didn't show up and open my business. I need one staff to open my business and they weren't showing up. So then what happens if I need to have somebody there to hire somebody else or to ask somebody else to come in? Well, you have to give them 24 hours notice and you have to give their schedule a week in advance. So if that happens, the only way I could have saved those days is if I was there and I didn't travel. So then I might as well just work. So the point is we ended up getting rid of our business because it was becoming really crazy to own a business and we weren't going to be able to afford it. Luckily we did because COVID happened not long after. And the point is if COVID happened, we wouldn't have survived COVID anyways. So we got out before a total disaster happened. Second, the next thing is we couldn't stand Trudeau. We couldn't stand him. And we were just like, fuck him. And that was a big reason too. We were going to do what we were going to do, but in our retirement.
Trudeau has destroyed everything that Canada stands for. Yeah. Canada used to be such a proud country, and now we're like the laughing stock of the world.
Hope is rising,